Well, hello. Gina?
You have to admit them in, or
Hmm.
you have to admit them in?
Yeah, if you don't set the waiting room up, you don't have to do that. Phone call. Can you all hear us?
I can hear you.
Awesome.
Awesome. Awesome sauce.
Are you connected through your telephone or through your computer?
No, I had to use my computer, but not through the VPN because it won't connect to internet.
Just
That's what I
without the
tried.
VPN,
Huh?
just your regular internet?
Yeah, because that's what
Yeah.
I tried the other day and it just like froze up. So I had to call in on my phone.
Yeah. So you're strictly laptop?
Yep.
And where's your picture?
Well, I don't know.
She didn't turn it
That's, I probably got a tape over it so you can't see me.
If you're smart, you would.
Yeah.
I don't know. Where is my picture?
I give up. Where is your picture?
I don't know.
I don't know. I don't care. 6 feet, Mr. Dale, 6 feet. 60 feet in your case.
Hey, come on over here, I'll share with you.
It's a mental image I didn't need to see.
Hello.
Good morning.
So let me call you back later. Okay. All right. All right. Love you. Bye. I knew she'd be calling me.
me wrong?
Somebody's gone away.
Mr. Parker?
Welcome to Zoom. Enter your meeting ID followed by pound.
Just a big number after.
Yeah, but if it's online, it will automatically kick you to it.
David, you still on there?
Austin, can you hear us now?
Yeah, we got you.
How about Molly? Can Molly hear us?
Yep, I'm on. I hear you.
All right. Commissioner Hinkle, you still there? Need to find Commissioner Hinkle, Brian.
Which phone number he called in from?
David, if you can hear us, which phone number are you that can't hear us, or we can't hear you? Let me. Try. Do you have a 931-8033? Or 677-5148? We're trying to get Commissioner Hinkle hooked up.
I do not see him in the list.
Did he leave us?
I don't see either one of those numbers.
Can you unconnect anybody or unmute everybody?
Commissioner Hinkle, are you here?
Did anyone call his number?
Send him a text. Let me try and call him.
Hey,
Calling from.
888
He's there.
There you say, I see you now.
788-0099.
What number you calling?
All right, David, can you hear us?
I can hear everybody fine.
All right, well, we had lost you there for a while. All right, Willie, Mr. Parker, Molly, and Austin, go right ahead with your presentation on this.
You have, excuse me, you have information as it relates to the proposal, the cost of the proposal. And Ms. Thomas and her staff are here to explain, how the system, their understanding how the system works. Austin and Molly from Paycom are attending via Zoom, so to go over any details or questions we may have. One of the items that came up recently was the clocks, the use of the clocks that we have versus using the clock system from Paycom. And our IT staff was in contact with Easy Clock, is the vendor that we've purchased some equipment from. And then Brian talked to Molly this morning. If we proceed with Paycom, it would be a recommendation to utilize their equipment, return our equipment for credit, utilize their equipment on a purchase basis instead of a lease per pay period. It would be more cost effective within a year and a half to purchase the equipment outright versus lease it for $600 each payroll period or each payroll process. That's depending on the number of clocks we receive. We're projecting 12 is what we think we would need at this point. The cost proposal is based on a semi-monthly with 315 people being processed through payroll. Sometimes it'll be less, sometimes more, but that's the average that the Ms. Thomas and her staff came up with. So without the clocks, and you have what all is included, if you have this sheet, you have what all is included in this cost proposal. Without the clock, purchase of the clocks, you're looking at $2308.82 for 315 people on a per payroll period basis. But this will be from start to finish, and there's different ways you can sign into the system. We can use the biometric clocks. They are a biometric clock. There's a kiosk option they have where you can use a mobile device to sign in with a 3-part authentication, name, password, social security number, type sign in. And there's what I call the geo option where, for example, myself, you've got a certain location you can sign in from. If you sign out from different from that location, it's red flagged on the system and the supervisor has to okay it. For example, I'll use Erica. If she signs in from home and Susan doesn't okay it, then that's an issue, unless she's working from home. So the supervisor or elected official always has that ability to override and allow that in the system. So I think that's a good function to have. In the future, that may limit the number of clocks we need, depending on what the commission, how the commission and elected officials, view that. But the system handles all payroll functions. It'll be for processing the checks for people that receive still a hard check. Will be FedEx to our location from Oklahoma City. We will not be cutting the checks here. There'll be a electronic transfer of funds from our account to Paycom's account for payroll related purposes, paying the taxes, the 941s, taking care of.
If there's an issue, we will still be able to cut a check.
Yes, yeah. There's if something comes up, there's a problem. We still have that capabilities, but they take care of the W-3 transmittals, the W-2s, the ACA forms. There's an annual fee of $75 for some of those, and $695 for the W-2s and forms, or 1095 forms. But As it relates to how it works, Ms. Thomas and Erica and Austin and Molly would be the experts to discuss that. I know Susan has looked at a number of vendors.
Yes, we've done our homework, and we believe that Paycom would suit us better than the other two that we looked at. As far as the workings of it, Eric is probably a better person to explain that and what the benefits will be. Of course, Mary's not here today. I just think it is going to help the payroll department immensely. It will streamline things. It will take a lot of weight off of Mary that should have been taken off of Mary years ago. This should have happened years ago. Yes, it costs money. I get that. But I think in the long run, there'll be some changes that we may be able to make in time, once we see how this is gonna work. So if Erica wants to say anything, she is welcome to, and then if you have any questions, you can ask any of us.
So basically, right now, everything is antiquated, as we all know. Right now, we're doing manual calculations for donated leave and doc, any type of, like, without pay, we have to actually manually calculate those, which can produce a lot of human error on that. It wastes time. It's just absolutely ridiculous. Doing this will put more of the responsibility on the supervisors. So they have to approve the time. The employee has to approve their time, and then the supervisor has to do the same. Then it is sent to us, and then we can process it. So that puts it back on them. We don't have to sit here and check things and, oh, is this right? Is this wrong? Once it's finalized by the supervisor and sent to us, we move on with our lives, which is how it should be. Because right now we're having to call people, we're having to email. Like, it wastes a lot of time. Payroll days are very stressful right now, as I'm sure you guys are aware. Yeah, it'll help with errors on, like, attendance records. So, the employees spend their time every day, and then it's approved by their supervisor. Right now, when we do the retirement reporting to the, go ahead. No, okay. So right now, the retirement reporting we're currently doing, Tony's actually doing that because it was a lot on Mary. I'm too busy to do it, and that takes her 4+ days to do. It is absolutely cumbersome. And that wastes a lot of time that we could be doing other things. So, everything will be at the touch of your hands on the app. You'll be able to access your pay stubs, your tax forms, your time and attendance records. You can request your days off. Supervisors can black out certain days that they don't want employees to request time off. You can complete your I-9 tax forms through the app. The 1095Cs that are required for us to do, those will be definitely be more simplified. Right now, it's just absolutely ridiculous. It takes 3 days. So right now, as we put information in, that information is aggregated and produces the 1095Cs automatically at the end of the year. Open enrollment, you'll be able to do that through the app. You'll be able to do everything, and that ties the amount to your paycheck. So that takes a lot of human error away. They also take care of the tax filings, the 941 quarterly taxes and whatever else. Right now, if you guys need a W-2, we have to make a copy of that. You can access all of your tax forms through there. So it's definitely going to be a lot.
And if you need a copy of your pay stub,
yep, everything,
you can print it yourself. You don't have to call us and say, hey.
You don't have to bother us for a credit union, yeah. And that wastes time when we have to do that. There's other things we could be doing.
And
we're very busy.
Takes care of garnishment.
Yeah, takes care of a lot.
One of the things I think that'll be beneficial for the over operations in the commission is right now we take a salary or a wage and divide it by 24. Semi-monthly, everybody gets the same check all the time. That will change with this system. You'll be paid, if someone's an employee off on whatever type of leave, it's unpaid leave. If there's not hours worked, they will not generate a check or generate a check for the hours worked. So there's less chance of, somebody, forgetting to do a payroll change notice manually like we do now and docking someone's pay, for leave that was not earned or family medical leave, unpaid, whatever the case may be. depending on the number of work days in our pay period, our pay periods, except for there's one short one in February because it's a short month, but you either have 10, 11, or 12 work days. So you either get normally 80, 88, or 96 on an 8-hour day. Right now, the checks average 86.66 hours. So if there's a 10-day work in that pay period, the employees will see the difference between 86.66 hours and 80 hours, which is not significant, but there is that change. The other ones will be more, depending on the number of work days. It will be tracking overtime with our pay periods that we have, and Molly and Austin can correct me if I'm wrong, but as I understand it, even if there's a split work week that flows into different pay periods, the capabilities are there and will track the overtime based on the number of hours worked in the defined work week, not the pay period.
Willie, let me ask you on the old system. I remember we used to have to provide Susan's staff the payroll like 3 days before the actual work time. Is that no longer?
Yeah, we've eliminated that with our pay periods. Right now, our pay periods go from the 10th to the 24th is one of our pay periods, and that check you receive on the 30th.
Right.
And yeah, then the overtime, depending on how that's tracked.
So they're actually paid up to, you don't project that they're going to work the next 3 days on that payroll.
No, and this system, will be hours worked and approved through the Paycom system. So they're never paid ahead of time, so to speak, or for hours not worked or
And
earned.
we shouldn't be waiting on overtime or anything.
No, overtime will be calculated, should be automatic. There's no overtime sheet. I don't know how other departments do it, if they generate overtime sheets or how they do that right now, but that'll be eliminated.
Yeah.
Before we turn it over to Molly and Austin, Patsy, you have any questions? David, do you have some questions?
My only question is how much time's going to be saved? Wait a second.
I mean, it's, one of these
My
slides.
My question's how much time will be saved?
Austin should have that.
I mean, how long does it take to do the retirement?
Retirement's 4+ days, just retirement. Wait on it.
Payroll, how long does it take for her to?
We normally do payroll 2 days before payroll day. So she likes to get it the day after the end of the pay period. And I mean, she's working on it clear off the list.
And where lucky we get it in there.
Yeah. Especially when someone says, oh, I have this, I have that, like it just wastes time. But Austin has put together something in one of the PowerPoints of how much time it actually saves us and how much money. Let's see one.
Austin, did you have any of that information readily available or that you can refer to?
Yeah. Yes, I can, and I can talk through it, or if you guys give me the, I can try to share my screen here. But in terms of, and Erica, you did a great job of explaining a lot of it, but some of the big areas that we really kind of see are going to specifically be in the onboarding, from the start, right? I think Mary spends about 2 hours with everybody on their first day, walking them through just paperwork, right? And then after that 2 hours is done, she spent another 2 hours rekeying this information. And then obviously, just because of the way that the manual workflows, there's a lot of data that is just kind of being, each department may maintain it, and it has to get to Susan and her group and just being rekeyed. So I also think one of the biggest things is now, where your employees are coming in and saying, hey, I worked, 15 hours or I worked, 38 hours this week. I had this amount of overtime. I had this amount of PTO. You write it down, in some cases, pass it to Susan, Erica, and her team. And that information is going to be in there in real time. You're not going to have separate sheets to track overtime, to track PTO, to track punches. I mean, everything is going to be much more real-time data. And then it's just approving it. And then it's going to be in the system for Susan and her team to pull in to there. So from Susan and her team's point specifically, I mean, you guys are onboarding. Sorry, I'm getting a little feedback there, but you guys are typically in a year, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, Susan, you know, onboarding about, what number did we come up with? Onboarding about 101 people, new hires a year. So, I mean, if you just say it's 2 hours on the employee's, you know, side, you know, that's 200 hours, 2 hours on, you know, Susan's side walking through it with them, that's another 200. And then you have 600 as well, or then another 200 in terms of all the time they're keying that information in. We thought that each payroll, there's 24 payrolls. You know, there's 24 payrolls and it takes them about 24 hours to actually process. You know, we think significantly, because so much of that information right now is data change. And the one thing that, you know, we talked about with Mary's, and she's making sometimes, just due to the way the system is set up, you know, over 3,000 changes. You know, she looked at a payroll once and it was 3,000 changes just on deductions. So with our system, it's a single database system. There's not going to be any more manual manipulation. We're going to be significantly able to cut that down. So we think we'll be able to take it from 24 hours of pay period, you know, down to 4, and that'll really just be much more like double checking of information, you know, rather than having to do a lot of the rekeying. And as I guess Susan and Eric, anything I missed there? Any kind of questions regarding that? I can kind of dig into a little bit more some of the explicit costs if you would want.
And a big thing for me is the supervisors will have to approve it before it comes to Mary. That way, Mary's not having to chase something down. That will be a lot of time saving for her.
And I think that will be the burden of the supervisor for accountability. And if we have a supervisor that's not doing it, then we can take the appropriate action at that time, because that's part of their responsibility. Good.
And we'll still, also, Willie, we'll still have payroll changes. It's just gonna be like a status change to the system. So that's
Yeah,
cool too.
yeah, it won't eliminate
Right.
all the payroll change notices that require commission approvals or elected constitutional officials approval, but it'll eliminate the ones for deductions for leave not earned, or, you know, whatever the case may be along those ones that should be automatic. And with this system, they will be.
It'll be paperless.
Yeah, I mean, right now, there's potential where if I'm off, you know, I receive a check on April the 15th, which covers me through the 9th of this month. But if I was off, you know, a week during that time period with unearned leave, you know, it may be another check before that deductions come through, at least. You know, usually it's at least one check behind.
Information will be real time. It'll be.
And that's the, you know, one of the advantages of utilizing the Paycom equipment on the clocks is if we used our current equipment, we would have to upload at the end of the payroll period and that information, and you use that and you lose that functionality of real-time verification.
Yeah.
You know, you're melding, not saying it can't work, but you're losing a lot of the functionality and benefit, whereas we can return our equipment now for a credit and then purchase, you know, the needed equipment through
And
Paycom.
that's actually a recommendation from staff, correct?
Yes, Ms. Thomas and Erica, I'm sure
Make this a one system.
Yes.
it would be more beneficial for the county as a whole as one system.
David, did you get your question answered on time saving? David?
Not really.
I easily see at least a half of position time being saved. Easily. Possibly more as we review the system and fine tune our operations. But initially.
That's where I'm,
just all-
Willie, that's where I'm confused from this, is I'm hearing days to operate the payroll, and we're gonna have all kinds of savings on the HR side of it. So I think it'd be interesting to know what somebody time.
Yeah, and, you know, Mary does a lot of the enrollment and such, of the HR side. But I easily see initially, easily 1,040 hours, which is a half-time, because easily that will be a savings within a very, very short time period. And possibly more as we move forward.
Another question that I would have, while David's thinking on that one, is there any way to interface the purchasing system?
No.
No, that would be different.
Yeah.
Okay.
And none of the others could do that either.
No.
Okay. All right, continue, David.
Well, I mean, I'm seeing the time saving, but I would just like to know how much we're going to save versus what the cost is.
Yeah, Austin has that in dollars, I thought,
Yeah, I can, let me know if you guys can, Willie, am I going to be able to share my screen here?
You should be able to, yes.
Okay.
And then this is Molly, everybody. As she's pulling that up, just to put into perspective, and this is just one small thing, but Mary's currently right now, she's got 3,000 changes. You know, maybe not every pay period, but several pay periods, she's got that many changes. And if you consider that it costs an admin user $4.51 per change, you know, that's $13,000 just of wages that are just paid out on unproductive labor. And, you know, and that takes into consideration the admin. So Mary, it takes into Erica's time, and then also on the supervisors that are having to go in and manually make these adjustments. So, you know, that is another thing too that we're going to be able to save. That's not going to be listed out on Austin's implicit, explicit, or exposure mitigated costs. So he'll be able to go into more detail. But even just on the changes made per pay period by Mary, that's a huge cost savings, a huge benefit to the organization.
Yeah. Austin, before you start, the other question is that under our system now, what happens if Mary is out for a considerable amount of time? Don't we have all of our eggs in one basket right now? We have no redundancy?
Yeah, so
okay, both of you are out.
I can do whatever she can do.
Okay, but both of you are out. Now this
yeah.
then protects that, right?
Yeah, what I was going to say is I think as we've talked about this, right, I mean, a lot of, you know, as I look at it, you know, really comes down to this is the biggest impact I think it's going to have is really being a communication conduit and getting everybody in the same page, because with a single system, you can automate a lot of those workflows. So to your question right there, what most people have is the processing is going to be much simpler. You're not going to be relying on Mary to know all the stuff that she knows, you know, in detail and has to manually remember to do during each payroll. It's going to be a very simple process with a few clicks of a button and double checking. But the other thing everybody always utilizes too in our payroll system is what's called a payroll checklist. And typically what that consists of is it's literally a checklist of maybe there's 3 or 4 things that, you know, everybody, you know, always has that's unique to them. And so if they're out, they build that checklist into the processing so that before that person processes, they're going through it and you know, checking off those boxes. So really, you know, we initially put that in place a while ago, and it was kind of to allow people payroll, you know, people to take breaks and take vacation on payroll weeks and also have a backup. So hopefully that answers your question. In short, it'd be yes, we'll be able to make it a much more standardized process. So 2 or 3 people are out, it'd be much easier for somebody else to step in.
All right.
And then with regards to the cost, so, and I think there's a lot in here, because obviously, you know, you guys have, it's unique where each department has their own set of rules, which is fine. And I think that's one of the things we're going to be able to really accommodate here is have it so that, you know, and it's all up to you guys, that you can still have the freedom to say, hey, I want my team to operate like this. You know, that's how I want to operate as the, you know, the elected official, and make it customizable. So it's tough to really say from a manager standpoint just how many hours it'll be, but we projected about, you know, 8 per manager, but some of the explicit costs, right, that we can get into. And you know, it's tough, but part of this is going off the average and part of it's going off of, just even, talking to Susan, talking to the team is, right now with the way that you guys, the county is tracking PTO, and we see this so often, you have everybody that qualifies for time off, whether it be vacation, sick, but with the time off, you accrue that time. And then what we mean by PTO liability is, a lot of that, just because if you think about the process right now, it has to go from the employee to, the elected official, then that has to get to the right place. It has to be remembered to keep into payroll. There's a lot of room for error. So this $63,000 in terms of savings of, making more accurate PTO liability, what that's taking into account is just very simply, saying, hey, on average, let's say there's 3 days missed here or there. Some people might be more, some people might be less. Having that, because the system is going to be real time and it's not going to pull it in unless the workflow has been improved. I request PTO as an employee, my manager approves it, right in the payroll system, right? The time staff, that's going to be your biometric clock. You guys have 315 employees. I took a conservative number, went with 250. Again, I think I used all these calculations off of a $10 employee average. So what we see and what the American Payroll Journal says is average, if you're clocking in and out, or if you're just, writing your time on a timesheet, there's typically about 15 minutes a day that there's a discrepancy on. And if you think about that, it sounds like that's a lot. There's no way. I mean, really, that just means 8:07. I wrote it down 8 a.m. And then that really just means, I left at 4:50 and I wrote down 5. It's very easy to get. And with some people it'll be less, some people will be more. But having this all real time is going to cut down to that 15 minutes a day. So if you say that you just do 15 minutes for $10 hourly wage for 250 some people, and that's going to be $163,000. And the last number here, the benefits reconciliation, I think this is something that we, some people that aren't familiar, they're surprised when they hear this, but it's something we see all the time. And I think maybe Eric and Susan could talk to it a little bit more. But right now, because it is so manual, you think about all the different benefits. The employee has to notify a change to whether they just call Susan or her team directly, they call the supervisor. They then have to remember to get it to Erica. And you guys have the instance all the time, or no, I shouldn't say all the time, but you guys have the instance where somebody gets termed, it doesn't get relayed up. And so then they're still even on the payroll. But with this, that system will be automated. And then same with the benefits reconciliation. Because if you think about it, I have to, every time somebody gets termed, I have to take them out of 5 or 6 different benefit portions. So even if I take them off the payroll, if I don't remember to go in and take them out of each plan, then I'm going to still be getting charged by the broker. So this is just assuming the amount of lives you guys have on the plan. Let's say it's about $650 a month. I think that's the number we got, or the average that it typically is. If there's just a 2% error rate, based on the turnover you guys have, just a 2% error rate that, hey, 2% of the time we forget to leave people on for a couple months, that's about $39,000 in savings too. So those are some of the areas we came up with. A lot of the exposure mitigated, I think, will be, big as well, because, exposure I'm not going to spend too much time into, because obviously exposure is not real until, you get audited. But I just, a lot of, there's so many different, like ACA, there's so many different boxes on those numbers for the series forms. And when you have different benefits, timekeeping, and payroll, you're pulling information from 3 different places and manually rekeying it. It's a lot. It's a lot of manual work to do. With our system, we're going to have all the timekeeping payroll data in one system, so it's just going to automatically populate. And then the other thing I'll just touch on before I kick it back over to you guys, I may have got too long-winded here, is the I-9s. With the I-9, again, it's more an exposure point. It's not necessarily a hard cost, but, right now, Mary, Erica, they sit down with people for 2 hours, I mentioned, but, a lot of employees, and it's common, they don't have maybe the proper information, or they fill something out incorrectly. And then, you have really 3 days to get that, right? They may not see them again, so they're stuck chasing them down. What this system is going to do is allow you to get ahead of that and prevent the employee from filling it out incorrectly, right? I'm not going to be able to any longer, because everyone knows it's a pretty tricky form, I'm not going to be able to, just skip over the middle initial or skip over a box here. The system will automate that process, let you know what your exposure and flag any missing data, beforehand. So, helping cut down that exposure significantly. Any questions, guys? Does that help bring some clarity?
Well, it brought a lot of clarity for me. That it shows me that due to the lack of time clocks, that you're saying that we're losing $265,000 a year. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's typically what we see. I think from talking with everybody on the team, I think there is that feeling that that's probably an accurate number, but I think the other areas are too, just not so much just the time clocks, but a lack of a system in general. Because I think, as they mentioned, that's the biggest difference. What makes Paycom unique is we're not a piecemeal, we're not piecemealing a bunch of different softwares together to make a solution. It's all in one. So we're being able to automate that process, 100% from the beginning. So really cutting down on the error and really cutting down, on there being miscommunications or, the benefits, things like that. So it's not just from a timekeeping standpoint. I think it's really the big picture. It'll make an impact for the county.
And I just sit
Well,
here
thank
and
you.
at the time, I look at time sheets. Not only me, you take all the elected officials or whoever looks at the employees' time sheets and approves these time and attendance records.
And manually keeping track.
Exactly. And it's all paper.
Yeah, our, currently our system and, routinely, the timesheets are the same every day, every week. Not everybody shows up the same time every day, every week. And so we will have the actual, and right now we're going with 15-minute increments. If it's, 8:07, you go to 8 o'clock. If it's 8:08, you go to 8:15. I mean, we can modify that as need be, but that's what we've been doing is quarter hours. But even with that, this system, and I talked to Molly and Austin, I don't know if Erica and Susan were in that discussion, but, we'll be able to clock in for whatever breaks you want. A lunch break, if you clock out and clock back in, even though it's paid, we can still code that as being a paid break, up to an hour. But that we'll know if there's an hour and 15 minute or an hour and a half lunch, or should know. The supervisor will have those, red flags to check on. So that's another just beginning and ending, but also during the workday itself. You can clock, breaks during the day if you want. That system has that capabilities if you take a smoke break or whatever the case may be. Under West Virginia law, any break less than 20 minutes must be paid. So if it's a 15-minute break, you still must pay that. But if it's a half-hour break, you don't have to.
Other questions? Any more, David? Are we ready for a vote?
Well, I'm not ready for a vote. I still think that I'm not happy that the managers or the head of each department has free reign to change time.
Well, depending on what you want to do, the system can be programmed now. For example, Charlie's here. Charlie will have the authority for his staff, but ultimately it must, depending on how we want to program the system, it still would have to go through Jessica Sell, the assistant, or myself for final approval.
Yeah, I've seen time sheets now where fully make correctional.
Yeah, there's, depending on how you want to do that, program that system and those approval levels, that can still be in place. Now, the constitutional
somebody's going to have to explain the approval system better, because I don't see that that somebody can go in and manually override what somebody's punched in all week does us any good than what we have now.
Yeah, it could happen, but Austin, just give me a minute. That could happen, but it takes at least two people to be in collusion to make that happen. But there's a tracking mechanism. There's an audit, there's a tracking mechanism that, okay, Willie went in and gave Brian 3 more hours when Brian wasn't here. That'll be tracked, or, that's there for everybody in the world to see that has access to the system. Go ahead, Austin.
Yeah, I was just going to say, sorry if I didn't explain that properly, but the system, you're able to get very granular in terms of approvals, right? We have a lot of clients who do not let their managers do anything other than approve. They have it set up that if anybody's going to edit time, it has to, either come directly from the employees and be approved, or, nobody can do it but, a certain administrator. That is all up to you guys. You want it to be that, hey, managers cannot make any time edits at all. It, just like Willie said, that is a simple unclicking a box in the system.
Further discussion.
I think that does need to be specific in our, when we do it, Willie, and you need to make that decision up front, because where I've worked before, that is the way that the manager approves, but there has to be a human aspect to it, because there is a chance of error. So there has to be a human side of it, but ultimately we have to designate either you or somebody else to be the ultimate person. That way you have an overseer of a system, because as long as there's a human side of it, one, there could be somebody doing something they shouldn't, not that anybody would, but it could. And two, you have to have an overseer. But you can't eliminate the human side of it, because we're the ones implementing the program in the first place. So, there's never going to be a proven perfect system, and at the same time, you're never going to be able to take people completely out of it. It's impossible up to this point in anywhere. So, Ron, it's up to you. I'm ready to move forward.
Yeah, just to follow up to that, we would have, and Austin and Molly and Ms. Thomas and her staff can speak to timelines, but before, we would have some, definitely some meetings via Zoom or whatever with all the constitutional officials, department heads, to make sure we're addressing all of their needs. Is there something that law enforcement needs that we haven't thought of yet? So to make sure that we're addressing that and have the proper approvals and oversight that's required.
It needs to be spelled out so everybody's on the same page. You're not going to make everybody happy, accept it, move forward, but get black and white exactly the way it is, so there's no question, so nobody can say we're treating one favorably over the other. Everybody's on the same page here. You punch in and out, you work your 8 hours, you go home safely, period. That's all we're doing.
Yeah, I mean, it would be my thought process, even what is, under the Fair Labor Standard Act, classified as salaried positions, they would still be punching in and out, even though they're salaried positions. So there's a tracking, Willie's working 5 hours a day, or Willie's working 15 hours a day.
Which is your choice, and you
Yeah.
can take the same regardless.
But there's an oversight, so the commission has that record and saying, Willie, we don't care if you work, 10 hours a day, but we want you, getting closer to 8 instead of 5.
It has to be black and white, and it has to be universal, and we all have to have an understanding.
Yeah.
So it's as simple as that. This is modern technology. We are so behind, it's incredible. So let's move forward, and like I said, Ron, it's your decision. I'm ready to go.
All right.
Well, I just would like somebody to tell me what the annual cost is.
The annual cost, based on the proposal, let me do some quick math here with my phone. The 2308.82 times 24 pay periods is $55,411.68. We do have a one-time client conversion charge of $8,000, and then there's a security deposit on the clocks that is refundable, just at $6,000. So the annual cost is $55,000. The upfront cost is approximately $14,000, and that is approximately 15% less than the original quote. We worked with Paycom, and
who owns the clocks?
We would be buying the clock. Be my recommendation. We buy the clocks and not lease the clocks. I would purchase the clocks.
But isn't that why we said we didn't want to use the other clocks? Is because they would get old and change out, and if these get old, are they going to upgrade them for free?
Well, the upgrades, I don't think there will be upgrades that come out every number of years, but if comparing the lease to a purchase, even if you have to purchase every 3 years, it's more cost advantageous to purchase them up front, even if you had to purchase 12 and 3-year time periods, because the annual, $600 or 603, whatever it is, 603 times 24, that's just that $14,500 a year in, if you lease the clocks. So in 2 years time period or less than 2 years, you've covered the purchase price of the clocks.
Austin, what do most of your customers do?
I'd say the majority lease.
Majority of them lease?
Yes.
Why is that?
I think it's from a maintenance standpoint. I mean, I bet typically the feedback we get a little bit less upfront cost too. A lot of people, and there's a lot of different flexibility in terms of the clocking in and out, right? A lot of people now are kind of using what we call a kiosk mode, which you guys have access to as well, and might be able to transition to more down the road. But with the BIOS, I'd say that most people lease. I don't know, Molly's worked with Paycom for 10 years. She could probably give you a little bit better of a estimate, but in my experience, it's been leasing.
David, I don't care if
Molly.
Up to you.
Molly, you're
on?
muted. Yeah, I think she's muted. She doesn't realize. I'll text her. Sorry about that.
She's not muted.
I think she might have muted her phone.
So if I understand the numbers right, then we're technically spending $70,000 a year to generate payroll and other items, and this is going to cost $55,000.
Yeah, the one-time cost is approximately $14,000. The annual cost, as I understand it, is just at over $55,000 for an average for 24 pay periods and with an average of 315 employees per pay. Sometimes it'll be more per pay, sometimes less, depending on, seasonal, Parks and Rec in the summertime, it'll be more. Now it will be less during the wintertime.
How are we gonna do that too?
My-
I'm sure I have to mobile app or what?
Doug Comfort needs to be muted.
I didn't hear it.
Needs to be muted.
Oh, I'm not muted, I'm sorry.
Did he not show $70,000 in his spreadsheet as a cost that we're doing right now?
Yeah, that's what's leasing the clocks, yes.
No.
I think you might be talking about the amount of labor.
I'm talking about his model where he said we're spending roughly $70,000 a year. Is that right?
Yeah, and I think that was purely in the
sheet.
implicit cost. Yeah, that was purely implicit cost, like the actual labor cost. When you look at the explicit, that's where that 265 comes into. So you want to add the implicit plus the explicit, total in the model be about, 335.
And by going this, how much time is it going to reduce in the accounting office?
A lot. An awful lot. I mean, all those benefits that I had said before that will help. I mean, I don't have an actual amount of time, but, I mean, even like updates, like with our
Can you
software
make sure?
now, we have to do updates, and we're not like
Sure,
computer
Molly's
programmers or
unmuted.
anything, but we have to waste time and do that. Like the new W-4s that came out this year. There's all kinds of legwork to even make those work, and that's from everyone January on. Like, there's a lot of time being wasted, a lot.
I'm done with questions.
All right. So what's staff's recommendation? Willie?
Based on my discussion with Ms. Thomas and her staff, working with Austin and Molly of Paycom, I would recommend we proceed with the proposal as outlined for the 230882, and then purchase any time clocks that we would want to utilize.
All right, let me ask you, Willie, should we have a stipulation that we have a meeting with all the constitutional officers to explain what's happening, where we're heading, before we, in case there's any adjustments or any other questions that we need of
I have
Austin?
discussed this with, not at length, with everybody but Rachel.
And I know that discussion, it was a year and a half, 2 years ago maybe now, where we met in October, and Rachel was the one that mentioned at that meeting, we need to move towards an electronic pay system. So I think the elected officials, based on that meeting, are okay. It's just a matter of working out the details with them. I don't think there's going to be any.
Because they'll have to set up protocol for each of their particular areas, right?
Yes, within the parameters that
Okay,
Ms. Thomas and the commission set, yes.
all right. Any other questions, Patsy, David?
Does an elected official have to participate?
Yes, that's the only way you're going to get your people paid. I mean, there is no other way.
I welcome you to
Lincoln.
come during pay period and watch Mary and Erica fumble through papers. I mean, it's awful.
Susan, I don't doubt that a bit. Ever since I've been there, payroll to me is a disaster the way it's been handled. Time clocks should have been installed 20 years ago. We shouldn't even be where we're at today. I don't argue that at all. I'm just looking that we're getting ready to expend X number of dollars a year to take over part of the work that's being done by employees in the county, and I'm still not sure of the true benefit that we're getting from it.
All right.
I haven't seen a true cost analysis. I haven't actually seen what you all do over a 2-year, 1 year, 3 year, where you think that you're spending money on payroll and what it's costing. The nice people from that are offering the system have done some generalities about, but I haven't seen any hard numbers. So until I see hard numbers, I can't support doing this. I'm a numbers person. Well, I mean, I'm willing to do this if you guys can get back to us in the next week or two with some real numbers.
What?
The biggest thing is, David, right now, is I don't know that they can give you the numbers that you're looking for. It is going to save Mary and Erica time that they can expend on other things that they need to do in their office to get it done, as well as the stress level that they go through to get everything done that they have to get done. We are doing a lot of the state of West Virginia's work right now in that office. Reporting-wise, retirement, they are doing an awful lot of that. It's not, and I understand you want a cost saving. I don't know, I'm going to be honest with you. Right now, I don't know that it is a cost saving, but it's going to be a time saving for Mary and Erica, which will ensure them that they can get their work done in a timely manner, as well as maybe down the road, yes, we can look at the cost saving somewhere else.
All right. Let's get this, staff, you're still okay with,
That would still be my recommendation.
that's the
Mr.
recommendation,
President.
Patsy?
Meeting when you run.
All right, so Patsy makes the motion, from staff. Susan, you got it? I'll second it. Any further discussions? David, you can vote no. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed?
No.
David? Okay. David opposed. But even though this passed, if you can provide Commissioner Hinkle with that, at least we we've got this moving forward. I'm sure once you get, he gets satisfied with the numbers, then we haven't delayed the process. It, as David said, should have been happening years ago. All right,
Molly and Austin will work with you on timelines of implementation. I know we've got a lot to do to get things, programmed or system set up how we want it and understand it, and before we go live, so to speak.
Thank you guys for the time.
Thank you,
Anything
Molly.
else, Miss
Thank you.
Lily?
Nope. Thank you, Molly. Thank you, Austin.
Thank you, guys.
all right, item 2 is review, discuss, and consider possible actions due to the moving of the primary election. Mr. Parker and Ms. Thomas.
The reason I put that on there was discussion at that point, are they moving the, primary or not?
Well, it is.
And it's been moved.
June 9th.
And, I don't know if that's good, bad, or indifferent, but, of what, we'll have to take a look at what needs to be done between now and then.
All right, at least it's given us some additional time, assuming that this thing's going to be over with, and if it's not, they may even extend it further. I know, smile.
I had a little conversation with David yesterday, and he mentioned possibly using just the school in June. And I believe we can do that. If you are okay with that, I can move forward to try to shrink the precincts, because I don't believe there'll be a lot of people coming out to vote even on June the 9th. So that's the only thing I wanted to pursue.
All right, and from, I reckon, our perspective, it's your call. So however you think it would be easier for the general public to have that opportunity to vote. So, David?
I have a couple things, Ron. I would like to make a motion, and I don't know if it's required, and that's up to Willie to let me know, to allow Susan to look at reducing the number of precincts so that we can make sure people get to vote. And on top of that, I would like to add to that motion that we fund for her to send out the, ask for an absentee ballot with a return address.
All right.
That would be fine. That would cover any action at that point as it relates to precincts Ms. Thomas would need to make.
All right, that's a motion. Patsy, second. Any further discussion? Patsy? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right.
Unmute.
Item 3 is review, discuss, and consider use of parks and recreation facility as possible staging area for First Energy and Mon Power. Mr. Parker?
We have that, and I think we've brought Mike and Doug in and unmuted them so they can chime in. But there was a request from Mr. Pingley, Tim Pingley with Mon Power, about the possibility of using, and it's not definite yet, but the possibility of using Parks and Recreation for up to 10, 12 personnel, 5, 6 truck type periods with a trailer for work tools that they would set.
Staging area?
Staging area. And Doug, and I forgot this, but Doug had a good point that we do have restroom facilities that are accessible from the outside, so there would really be no need to enter the building that I'm aware of. We could issue a key to those restrooms to appropriate supervisory personnel with First Energy and Mon Power. Would that be a problem, Mike or Doug?
No.
No,
Okay,
sir.
and those keys are individual, they do not fit anything else?
For the bathroom? No.
Yes. Okay.
All right.
If that's the case, I do not foresee a problem. Mike or Doug, do you foresee an issue?
Based on the email that we sent out yesterday, talking about the suggestions, I think it'd run pretty smooth.
All right, they would still could keep the gate locked, they could put their own lock on the gate, so they
Well-
can get in and out.
Well, Willie, what we would do is give them a key to a copy of our key, so they can continue, so we can use our key as far as if we needed to come open up on a weekend or anything along those lines from there. So the consistency would be there. If they were going to use one of their keys, what if we needed to come out in the evening for maybe an alarm that went off or whatever, that traffic would need to come into our parking lot. So I figure we keep it consistent by giving the key.
Doug, there is a way that you can put both locks on there that, this way they don't have your key and you don't have their key.
Yeah, there's a way that you can have multiple locks on a gate
On a gate.
and still have access, individual access.
Yeah, you might want to look at that first.
I think there's 12.
Okay,
on
we'll
each
talk
gate.
with them and then we'll just take it from there.
All right.
All right? Any further discussion?
I've asked just for a certificate of insurance listing us as an additional insured, so we'd be covered there.
All right. Hearing no further discussion, how about a motion to that effect, and we'll make it official? All right. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you. Item 4 is item 4 has been withdrawn at this time. Is that correct, Mr. Parker?
Part of item 4 was, I did not list it. What we have for item 4 is projects for the Northern Trail and Southern Trail that we've had contracts from the state. For the Southern Trail, it's working from Custer Addition to Two Lick Road, I think, is the project. Of course, this is a cost sharing. The match is 20%. The construction is $99,890.50, so just under $100,000. The design is 100% funded by the grant of just $80,438, so just over $80,000. And then there's a Northern Trail, a smaller area, but still just $42,034. That's 100% grant funded for design. Construction is $97,457. That's the total. Our 20% match is $19,491 on that one. So it's
Either one of these, Willie, is from the call we received yesterday?
no, the other call I removed that
Okay.
from the company that's looking at putting a pipeline related to.
So these are the grants.
These are the grants, yeah.
All right. Recommendation?
Well, where's the area that right now we're holding for? We didn't crush rock because we're waiting for that.
That's the Southern Trail, and the grant,
Different than that?
no,
Same thing.
that is from the Custer Addition to Two Lick Road. And that's 400, I said 99, that's 499, 452.50.
So we already got that grant. What are we doing here today?
No, we don't have that grant. We've been awarded that grant. This is the contract to receive the funding.
Okay.
Yeah, we've been awarded both of these grants. This is the contract to execute and accept.
So really what we're doing is we're getting $650,000, only the cost of $120,000 out.
Correct.
Perfect.
All right.
What's the timeline, Willie?
Oh, that I don't know with the related
I know.
situation we're in. I do not know.
Motion approved.
All right, we have a motion to approve and affix our signatures. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right,
There are a couple other items that we can get commission approval, and then I'll put it on a future agenda whenever we get back to normal. These are requisitions related to Charles Point payments under the bonds. The first one being, let me get to that page. $1,361,320.21. That's all related to the bond. That's for the Wolf contracting and the civil and environmental services. The other one is same project, but for Genesis, partnership of $68,065.51. These have been both approved by the developer as well as the CED board. And this requires commission's president's signature now.
All right, so what action will we?
If it's agreeable with the commission to authorize the president to sign the requisitions as outlined and received.
You need a motion?
Yes,
All right.
we would.
We have a motion to that effect. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
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 And one last item, Brian Kimmer is going from a full-time status to a part-time status. He's going to remain on courthouse security on a on-call basis, but he's resigned his full-time position as the family court bailiff if the commission can just authorize him continuing in a part-time status.
Motion to go from full-time to part-time for Brian Hibbert.
Right. All right, we have a motion to that effect. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Anything else, Mr. Parker?
That's all I had, sir.
Susan, anything you would like to bring out?
No, I think you've done enough for me today.
Just to hear from the county administrator, just a couple things that we're not going to take any action on. Willie, the employees' rights, just elaborate on that a little bit.
As of April the 1st, there was, it's House Resolution 6201, but there's emergency paid sick leave that full-time and part-time are eligible for under certain 6 different circumstances. And the 1 through 3 is paid at one rate, 4 through 6 paid at another rate. But we're required to communicate those notices to the staff. We put them on our website. We've sent them to everybody's email that we have, and I'll be posting them at the courthouse also. But depending on the circumstance, whether you have COVID-19 or you're taking care of somebody that is, or taking care of a son or daughter as it relates to school, that, they don't have school or daycare available, those are some of the eligibility items. A full-time employee can get up to 80 hours. A part-time employee is eligible for up to their prorated amount, up to what they've averaged that they've worked. So that would be, and we have people that have already qualified in that regard.
Can I use 80 hours over the course of 5 months?
Yes, it doesn't have to use 80 hours all at once. If I don't have daycare this week, but I do for the rest of it. And this is from April the 1st, and it's either December the 1st or December 31st, but it's just for the remainder of this year is for that part of it. And also, there's an amended family medical leave as it relates to taking care of a son or daughter under the age of 18, where an employee can receive up to 2/3 of their salary for that circumstances under a family medical leave, where that would be the only condition where a family medical leave is paid unless you have vacation or sick time in conjunction with that. So there are also individuals that have qualified for that already. So we'll try to be handling those situations, and as we move forward, if it's agreeable with the commission, if you could authorize your administrator just to administratively handle those in conjunction with Ms. Thomas and her office on the payroll.
All right.
So we don't have to bring everyone for approval. If we
That's
could.
fine.
And the estate, I don't know that we ever,
All the estate.
Yeah, we'll have to we'll get back with you on that.
so, I mean.
Settlement, yes.
The motion authorized the administrator to board. Okay.
All right, so we have a motion to that effect. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Any
Aye.
opposed? All right,
One more question, I'm sorry.
go ahead, Patsy.
Attaches a letter from law enforcement to cover the need to move funds from training to equipment. Is that within guidelines?
Yes, you gentlemen have already approved that last week. I didn't have their documentation at the time, but the budget revisions were approved at our
It's
last.
already in their budget, so they're
Special.
just moving money
Moving
around.
within their line items, yes.
Right.
And then the other line items that you moved do not take, do not need action. If you sent out 3 line items
Yeah, those have already been authorized under the motion at our last meeting.
Okay.
Yes.
Are you still keeping everything, trying to keep everything in one line item?
Within the department, yes.
Yeah.
Like Ms. Thomas moved the money around within her department to cover, I think it was from record books to where another line item, maybe overtime.
Okay, last thing, David, I promised last thing, once to discuss with you and Ron, is these masks. Do we want to get more masks? I'm convinced that this is key right now, health and quite frankly, saving lives. Do we want to continue to try to get more to distribute to our employees?
That was, the question was what, Pat?
I think we need to continue to pursue buying more masks. I just think it's the key. I think the email that Robert sent out with suggestions on what he can buy, I think that it's masks and masks. I think it saves lives. And I see.
Oh, masks.
And what's happening right now is I think we're gonna go all to a full, it's mandatory that we wear them, period. I'm watching it happen, and I think we don't wanna be behind the 8 ball on that.
I have sufficient numbers right now to issue one for each employee right now, that desires one. So we've got that taken care of, the immediate need, but I would concur if we, especially for first responders and.
I think what we need to do is right now, and I don't wanna, call it sandbagging, but I think we would be sick if a month from now we couldn't get them. And for some reason, if we had an abundance of them later, I'm willing to take that chance. I really am. I'm just scared that we're gonna get in a spot where we need them and we can't get them. So right now, I think we need to pursue getting them I would rather them sitting on a shelf than a shelf be empty.
Well, they're actually in a plastic, individually in a plastic,
But are you okay to authorize them to continue to buy more of those? And I'm happy with the cost. I realize what we paid, $1,000 or.
It was $4,000.
$4 a piece.
You not comfortable with doing that again, David? Ron?
David,
People dropped out.
You may have dropped.
is he still on there, or does he do one of those passing numbers when he's done, he gets up and goes?
Well, I will make the motion and you decide now.
All right.
Let's make the motion to authorize another $4,000 for to get in if it's a surplus, good. I'd rather be a surplus than a.
And let them come here,
Whatever works for them.
Judge Stankwell, and
Yeah, we'll coordinate that and,
bring them here and you
Yeah.
can store them and
then if the amount,
for the employees, because if you get them over to Laura, then chances are they'll be dispersed out of the places.
As far as I'm concerned right now, everybody in this room and anybody in this building and any facility that we have or any vehicle we have is a first responder right now.
Right.
It's no different than Becky and downstairs right now. People are meeting her face to face, she's a first responder. So, any contact makes you a servant right now, so. If it's
All right.
okay with you, Ron.
I second that. Any further discussion? Here none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
No,
There you are.
yeah,
We lost you, David.
I know.
Um,
But I do oppose that, I know we're considered first responders, but those guys out in those cars and those ambulances are our front line that are getting hit with it the worst.
Oh, without a doubt. Don't think I was diminishing what they're doing, David, at all. Please don't. I just want to let you know that I feel equally as obligated to everybody in any facility, whether it's a cruiser or an ambulance, the courthouse, and somebody does go out to the 4-H barn and let somebody in a restroom facility. They would like a mask. I just want them to have it, but at the same time, please don't take that as any disregard towards the safety of our immediate responders. It's the utmost respect to them and praise God for them right now.
The other thing that I don't know if you've all seen in the news where our local hospital came up with a way to sanitize and reuse these masks. And I think
Yeah.
we need to have Laura get in contact, and we need to start saving our mask and scheduling time with county employees to go to the hospital and sanitize our masks. So I think they can get up to 5 uses out of them, and I think that's really important to do.
David, I heard it was actually 20.
Well, 20 or 5, either way, we need to save these masks and set up a time where we can go disinfect the masks so that we're just not burning through them.
Right.
Great idea, David.
All right.
Okay, motion adjourned.
All right, we have a motion to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Hey, before we actually, maybe put this on the record, I'm assuming that we have canceled our regular meetings, indefinitely at this point in time, and that any action needs to be taken will be through a special meeting?
Correct. That's how we're operating.
All right. Okay. Motion to adjourn.
Thank you, everybody.
We're out of here.